new ridiculous movie, Cocaine Bear, or its sequel, as I've come up with on my sign today, Ecstasy Elephant,
Yeah.
which is the sequel I want to see, which is an elephant that does a lot of ecstasy. And we just see what happens, because that's what this movie does. That's what people in this movie does. That detective guy, he's just like, yeah, give the bear some cocaine. Let's see what effect it has on him. And we're just like, yeah, okay, this is a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah.
It's not a reasonable thing to do at all. This is a ridiculous movie, and I loved it.
Yeah, based on true events, this actually did happen. Cocaine was dropped in this woods area and a bear ate it and died not long after. But this kind of takes the turn of, what if the bear ate it and went crazy and got super stoned and high and like killed people and went on this rampage. So I really love the mix of kind of the horrific kills and the gruesome nature of it with the comedy. I think it is a great blend. I think Elizabeth Banks has worked with some great comedians and has really taken to that fun sense of humor. I always think maybe sometimes she goes a little extreme with her sense of humor, like in things like Charlie's Angels, there were some kind of jokes that just didn't feel like they landed very well, and even in Pitch Perfect 2, which is the one she directed, also kind of had some jokes that maybe went a little too far or just didn't hit right. But I think she's really kind of honed in a really fun sense of humor, and really love just kind of how gruesome it allowed itself to be, seeing guts getting ripped off and limbs,
Yeah.
and really just being super gory, which I feel like we haven't seen kind of that type of gore in a long time, and done in kind of a comedic way. I think just makes it that much more silly and just entertaining. So
It is, because it's an absolute spectacle horror movie. It's an
yeah.
action horror movie that is entirely there for you to enjoy it, for the audience to enjoy it, not to be, scared by it, as a lot of horror movies want to creep you out or want to terrify you. This
Yeah,
is a
no, it's
horror
very
movie that
much a
wants you to
Tucker
enjoy it.
and Dale type kind of horror comedy, where it's very much, just being silly. The 80s, something about the 80s setting in movies is always just adds to kind of the comedic flair of things.
Yeah,
And
because you can allow it to be over theatrical, you can allow it to be over the top, and when you embrace that in a movie like this, that is a very, very over the top movie in every
yeah.
sense, it just works so well. The setting works so well. The characterizations of it work so well. What actually surprised me the most, and I think credit goes to Elizabeth Banks for this, really, because Elizabeth Banks is also, while she mostly is known as a comedic actress and director, there's plenty of competent drama in Elizabeth Banks roles, in
Hmm.
certain Elizabeth Banks roles, and kind of an honesty to them as well, a genuine humanness to them,
Yeah.
that I think is brought into this movie quite significantly and quite honestly. Not it almost takes moments to take you out of the fact it's a movie about a coked up bear on a rampage, and becomes about, a father and son, and becomes about a mother and daughter,
And a friendship, and
and a
a husband who's
friendship.
just lost his wife, and
Yeah,
yeah.
it takes its time to not treat. I mean, Alden Ehrenreich's character in this movie could have been treated ridiculously, and he's treated with so much empathy while being chased down by a coked out bear, that it's surprising that it works as well as it does, that it
Yeah.
blends as well as it does, because I really do think it does. I
Yeah.
think there's maybe one too many groups of people in this movie.
Yeah.
And I think the gang of kids are probably the ones to just make one-dimensional kills.
Yes, definitely there for kind of body count purposes.
Well, they
We
should have been,
recently
but we try and give depth to them, and I think that's maybe one group of people we try and give depth to too far. I think they should have been treated as bear fodder
yeah,
for the movie to feel a little bit crisper, a
yeah,
little bit kind of smoother. I don't think it's far from a messy movie at all. It is a smooth movie. It's not. It's a really actually very well made, well paced movie. It's just I think it's got a handful, and I mean 2 or 3 too many main characters.
yeah. Had there been like one
Um,
or two things or that we were really focusing in on, and then everyone else could kind of just be these kind of silly characters that are coming in. Like we are talking this week about Car Wash, this kind of hangout movie where we just kind of have
yeah,
random
on the main show.
characters. Yeah, have random characters there, and we just kind of pop in with each of them and get a little sense of their personality, and they kind of just do something funny, and then we move on to somebody else, and we just kind of meet this rotating door of just silly fun characters. But we do focus on certain ones more specifically. This movie could have benefited on really kind of having, more focused characters, you know, one or two less, and really just kind of focusing on one or two kind of groups, and then having your just kind of fun rotating characters. Whereas this one, I think it tries to take several directions and tries to pull focus to a bunch of different things that
Yeah.
um it loses kind of that focus and in moments, and even kind of that final act that kind of fell apart a little bit for me, where it kind of was going by the end, and then more focusing on Ray Liotta's character in that whole situation. um it kind of
Well, I
lost a bit of its momentum, I think, for me when it got there.
see. I like the two main groups we get are Alden Ehrenreich and O'Shea Jackson Jr., who are the drug, who
Yeah,
are part of the drug operation,
yeah,
where all this cocaine has been thrown out of this plane for a reason, because Sid White, played by the late great Ray Liotta,
yeah,
is supposed to send these guys out to go and collect it, and it's all supposed to be there, and it's all fine, and this is just how they operate this business,
yeah,
right? That's how that works. So they go out there, but obviously a bear's got into it, and
yeah.
the movie is the movie then. So that's why they are there. You have Keri Russell and her daughter and her daughter's friend, because her daughter and her daughter's friend skip school and go out to
To the
the
woods.
the national forest,
Yeah.
as though this is something that you would do if you were skipping school. Would you just go on a hike? I wouldn't do that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm 13 and I'm skipping
Well,
school.
she
I
has
know
this
where
whole
I'm gonna go. To the park.
well, she
To the national park.
well, she has this whole thing where she wants to paint the falls or whatever, and it was something she was gonna do with her mom, but her
I
mom
don't even
was
know what
like,
that means. I didn't know what that meant for the entire movie. What does it mean, paint the falls? What are you gonna do? Paint some rocks
I
around the
I don't
waterfall? What does
know.
it mean?
I don't know, but
You
like
can't paint water.
obviously she had paints with her, so I think it's just implied it was something that going up to the woods was something she was going to do with her mom, but her mom was
Or
like,
does
"No,
she
we're gonna
mean
go."
paint the falls like she's going to paint a picture of the falls? Because that wasn't made clear. Like, where's her canvas then?
I don't know. I think it's just supposed to be implied it's something to go up there with her mother and something they
Oh,
were
I
going
know
to
that,
do
yeah.
together. And because her mom was going to be ditching her or taking her on this trip with the boyfriend, now it was something they couldn't do. So she was just going to go do it on her own. So that was kind of the impetus of her going to do that
Oh, I
without her
know.
mom.
Yeah,
And even her
I
friend
get that.
I like that her friend even calls her out and is like, "You're just doing this because you want attention from your mom and you want to get caught and you want her to worry about you. Just admit it, you know?" So I like him kind of calling her out on that. But uh yeah, they didn't really explain what exactly that means, but I guess it's just supposed to be this
It
is a
doesn't
thing she was going to
matter.
do with her mom, and because she can't do it with her mom, she's going to do it on her own to get that attention. So yeah.
It doesn't matter, but I think those two central groups do bring a lot of surprising heart to this movie. Now, I was going into this movie expecting a bear on a rampage movie, and there's plenty of the movie that is a bear on a rampage, killing people running away from a bear, people
Yeah.
hiding from the bear getting tricked by throwing cocaine this way, so we all run this way. And this is what I was expecting from this movie. I just wasn't expecting the level of heart that it does have. And
Yeah.
perhaps because I was viewing it and had seen early reactions of it that had said, this is a great homage to 80s B movie animal attack movies and things like this. Then I'm just
Oh yeah.
thinking, okay, this is going to be an 80s B movie animal attack movie where all the characters are nothing people and you're
Who I
just
don't
there for
care
the
about, and you're
vibes,
just there. Yeah, and you're just there
you
to
know?
watch random people get eaten. But they actually kind of create these stories around these people. So I feel like maybe a little too much focus was maybe put on kind of the kind of robber kids, and a little bit too much focus on the ranger and
Yeah,
the
and Jesse Tyler Ferguson with a stupid haircut.
yes, and her whole crush on him and that whole kind of thing. I think put a little too much emphasis on that in in terms of kind of pulling focus away from the two
Yeah,
main
I would
interesting
agree.
plot points. So I wish they would have just kind of felt more like, bodies for the kill count, as opposed to kind of, because I mean, while they spent a little too much time with them, it still didn't do much to flesh them out enough. So it was like this weird
No, it's
imbalance
it's
with
not
them.
like you cared about them when they just got
No,
mutilated. You
exactly.
didn't.
So they spent too much time, but but not enough time to really make you care, but too much time that it pulled away from other things they could have focused on,
You'd
if
have
that makes
rather
sense.
than just have got mutilated,
Yes. Yeah.
because then you might have been able to have one more scene of the people you actually do care about,
Yeah.
um, and allowing you to care about them more. Because I think by the end of the movie, we do feel emotional stakes. We do feel you know a, a desire to want these characters
To
to
carry on.
survive, to get
Yes.
away from
And
the
I mean,
danger.
another character we do get some focus on. How did you feel about this focus on the cop and his dog and that whole kind of
Now that I love. I love it. I love it so much
like at
because
first
that
he's
felt.
frustrated. He's frustrated because the dog is like not, a manly type of Labrador man's best friend. It's like this floofy dog. But then by the end he's like really kind of worried about her and wants to make sure she's okay and misses her, and
The
yeah.
detective who's obviously after, Ray Liotta's drug ring
Mhm.
and has been searching, and has been on his list for
For
years by
years,
the
yeah.
sounds of it. I'm entirely into this story and this character because he does feel like he's plucked out of a nonsense animal attack movie from
Yeah.
from a few decades ago.
And
You
giving
know,
him this dog subplot is just really great kind of comedic beats, and I was
it's
like,
funny.
I felt like I was the only
So
person laughing at the moments when he was, like, really worried about the dog.
you know what? So I felt like I was the only person. I'm sure there were a couple of people in my cinema screening that walked out.
Yes, I had a
I'm, s-
whole group of people walk out.
I'm certain there were, and I didn't. I don't think they knew what they were getting into,
Yeah,
because this was a nonsense movie, and there was plenty of nonsense in it.
yeah,
But this detective stole the entire movie for me. I thought he was great.
yeah.
I really did. Very, very funny. I mean, there is a lot of genuine comedy in this movie, I think.
Yeah.
And because it is a movie that is as kind of bombastic as its title, because what movie's called this these days? You know,
Right.
mainstream Hollywood is a very, very prudish place these days. This is not the mid-80s anymore. You can't just throw anything in a movie and it be
Yeah, and it'd
okay
be okay.
because
Yeah. Because
it's a
it's a
movie.
product of its time, and yeah.
You know, you think, I mean, I've heard, not that this has anything to do with this movie, but I've heard people talking about Babylon,
Yeah.
Damien Chazelle's Babylon, being essentially a movie that's entirely set at orgies but being deeply sexless.
Oh, yeah.
Which, like, you do question, surely, why?
Yeah.
If you're going to have your movie set there,
At that
go
time, just
all
go
out
for
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
You know, this movie does want to go all out with it, and I think from a cocaine standpoint, from a
Yeah.
drug fueled standpoint, it really, really does. But it's obviously it's not doing the whole, yeah, let's take cocaine. This is great. It's showing, please don't. This is very dangerous.
Yes,
Clearly,
even that, like, we have a scene where the kids take it and they're just like, "Oh, this
it's
is
so funny.
disgusting." Yeah.
It's so funny though, because yeah, the little, I
I
mean, the
take it all
kid
the
is about
time. Yeah.
13, but he looks about 7, and he's just like, yeah, I take coke all the time. All right, how do you do it then? You eat it.
You just eat it like a spoonful,
How
like a tablespoon.
much do you eat? A tablespoon. Oh my god! Could you imagine? No, no.
Yikes.
It would bleed your
Yeah.
throat internally. It would not. You would die.
Yes.
You would die straight up.
Yes. We do get
Um,
an interesting bit of casting here. Do you think it was a purposeful casting to cast a man who played a character who was said to have relations with bears, Morgan?
he was, wasn't he? Yes,
Yeah.
he was. I'd forgotten about that. I see. He's weird for me because I really like the opening with Christopher Hivju and his partner.
Yeah.
I think they work really well as that ridiculous over the top opening.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have come back in the movie.
No.
Why is
'Cause
he? Why does he come back at 2/3 of the way through the movie just to be like, yeah, I know
she's in
where
this.
your
Yeah.
daughter is. She's in the
Yeah.
cave. He didn't need to do. Just leave him at the beginning of the. You don't need to bring all your characters. You don't need to have. Everyone doesn't need depth, right?
Yeah.
Everyone doesn't need. Some characters can just be bear fodder, and
Yeah.
they should have been. And I think that's the only aspect of this movie that I felt wasn't absolutely perfect for what it was trying to be.
Yeah.
Is it was just it gave too much depth to too many
Many
people.
characters, and they didn't just let it, because like the whole paramedic characters, like them just having these crazy kind of situation with them, I thought that worked perfectly. Like,
It did. They
you
came
know.
in, they had a situation, they were funny for the time, and then they got mutilated. And
Yes.
that's what this movie should have been, because the bear's completely insane. The bear, I actually think the bear looked pretty good for
Yes, for
obviously a
being a
CG bear.
CGI bear, like there were moments where it looked really real. It interacted with the characters really well and seamlessly. I mean, there were some moments where you could kind of tell, obviously, like the cubs and things as well. But for the most part, it looked really good for literally not even being a thing that existed.
Yeah, I did. I liked how the bear was. I really did like the kills. I liked the embracing of the gore
Yeah.
that it did have. It didn't feel like it held back on the gore at
Yeah.
all. It certainly didn't hold back on the copious amounts of sprinkled cocaine everywhere.
Right.
There is actually one point where the poor detective He stood on top of that
I
wooden
love where
gazebo.
he doesn't know how he's like, "When I get down from here," and then he's like, takes at
I,
least 5 minutes trying to figure out how to get down.
do you know what I love most is that we see a scene of him walking up to this gazebo, seeing the duffel bag of cocaine
Cocaine, yeah.
up stashed at the top, and then he's just like, I need to get up there. But he's like he's a slightly older gentleman. He's
Yeah,
a slightly heavier set gentleman.
yeah.
You can't imagine him easily getting up there. And then, like, the very next scene is Alden Ehrenreich and O'Shea Jackson Jr. coming up there. And he ends up just on the
On
top of
top.
the
But
gazebo,
they
this
were like,
guy.
"How'd you even get up there?" He's like, "Oh, like I hurt my hip a little bit trying
I
to
hurt my
climb
hip
up."
jumping from that tree over there. You have not climbed up a tree and jumped across to the roof of that gazebo from a tree, sir. You have not done that. I'm
But I
not
love him
having
just,
any of it.
he's this authority figure trying to assert some dominance over these 2 criminals, and he still admits, "Oh, I hurt my hip a little bit."
He's great. I love him to death. I could
Yeah.
watch an entire movie of him.
And him, like, really just, like, finding himself missing the dog and, like, really worrying about her. Yeah,
I was really upset that he died
yes. Oh, I don't think we
because
said that we were going to talk spoilers, so we might have to just put a little spoiler
we
warning
will put
somewhere.
we'll put a thing. We'll put a
Yeah,
thing.
but,
Um
um,
I was though, because I could have watched an entire movie of him.
yeah, he's
I
great.
just think he as a character is treated exactly in the tone I
Yeah,
wanted this movie to be.
definitely.
While I appreciated the heart within Alden Ehrenreich and O'Shea Jackson and Keri Russell,
Mhm.
I wanted. I think I wanted more of the movie to be like him.
Yeah.
So I was thankful he was in there.
Yeah, and had this really kind of fun moment with them, and then the bear actually coming up and them having to deal with all of that, and
Yeah,
yeah, and this kind of standoff between them, it really made for a great sequence. I thought one of my more favorite sequences in this movie.
it's a very very enjoyable movie.
Yes, I had a lot of fun with it.
A very very funny movie. I should say it's Isaiah Whitlock Jr. as well playing the
Yeah,
detective. It's a very, very funny movie, a completely ludicrous movie. And in a strange way, a fitting way to remember Ray Liotta,
yeah,
because his most famous character was pretty famous for ending up doing a lot of cocaine and ruining his own life. Anyway,
yes,
Henry Hill.
yeah,
So it works, doesn't it? And there's a
yeah.
nice little in-loving memory of Ray
Ray
at the
Liotta at the
end.
end, yeah,
Um, and I like him as a deeply evil drug villain, actually.
yeah,
I liked him playing this really sinister role.
and also kind of annoyed grandpa, like,
And also annoyed Grandpa, because this is the tone that should have been taken. He's quite silly at times because he's just like, you left your kid with me. What
yeah.
was
What
I
did you
supposed to
expect?
do with your
Yeah,
kid? I was gonna just leave him there. I need to do my stuff, you know. I need to go
yeah,
out and do my job.
yeah,
But he's also genuinely evil.
yeah.
And I mean, he's the one that ends up killing poor Detective Bob
Yeah.
with his big sniper or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose there's kind of injury comedy in the movie as well, because how O'Shea Jackson Jr. stays alive for as long as he does, I don't know, because he's
Oh, I
constantly
know.
getting he gets his fingers
Stabbed. He's got
shot
his
off, he
fingers
gets
shot off.
stabbed,
Yeah.
he gets scratched by the bear. At one point, actually, Alden Ehrenreich does seemingly get flattened by the
And
bear.
crushed. Yeah. And in an interesting
um,
way, finds out that it is in fact a female bear.
yes. So that's funny as well. And I suppose in a way as well, it's nice to see Alden Ehrenreich have fun in a
Yeah,
movie.
I feel like I haven't seen him in a while.
We haven't, I don't
Yeah,
think. It's
he's
really nice to
great.
see him
He's
have
really
fun in
great,
a
yeah.
movie. It's nice to see O'Shea Jackson Jr. carry on his trajectory of becoming more of his own actor rather than just his father's son.
Yes, and, like, I saw and speaking of him, like, I saw, there's this kind of big conversation looming around nepo babies and nepotism babies,
Yes.
and a lot of them are really just in denial of what that means. Like, people aren't kind of hating on you for being a nepotism baby. No one is saying that that is a bad
No.
thing. No one is putting a stigma on it, but they are recognizing that you have a door opened for you where some people have to climb a billion ladders.
Yeah.
You have an open door. And that's all people are saying that that means. You
Right,
maybe don't
that's
have to
fine
audition.
because that's the
Yes,
way of things, that's how you were
exactly. You
born.
maybe don't audition for something. You can just get the part. And you've since been able to prove that you were able to do your own thing and make the most of that opportunity that you were given because of
Yeah,
your nepotism. And that's all people are saying. Just acknowledge the fact that, yes, I got it easier to get in the door, but I still was able to prove that I could do the job that I did once I
yeah,
got through the door. And that's all people are saying for these people to admit. So he has this great kind of take on it. He's like, when people call me a nepotism baby, I take that as a badge of honor. Of course, I love to represent my father and be compared to him in that way because he's my hero. I love him, and he has, opened doors for me. But I'm the one who has to walk through that door and be a professional and prove myself once I walk through that door. And that's what I strive to
yeah,
do every single day. So I don't take it as a hit or an insult or something to be ashamed of or something to take as a criticism or something to take as an insult. I take that as a badge of honor. You're comparing me to my father. You're connecting me to my father, who is my hero, who is someone I look up to, who is someone who worked really hard. And me being a product of his hard work, that's a compliment. But at the end of the day, I'm the one who has to step through that door and prove myself through the door that was opened by my father. And I still have to do the work of proving myself. And I try to do that every day. So I don't take this nepotism baby thing as a negative thing. So he has a great take on that, and he's shown that in the work he's done, that he walks through that door and proves himself as an actor and tries to do more and be a professional and be a great performer in his own right, and still not take anything away from how he was able to get there, and his father coming before him and all of that. So I really love him
absolutely.
and really enjoyed him in this movie.
I think he's continuing to do that. He
Yeah,
certainly shows it in this. I'd go as far as to say he's probably the strongest part of the movie,
yeah,
to be honest,
definitely.
in terms of
He gets a little
a
fight scene. It's just
yeah, in terms
cool.
of an all-round performance,
Yeah,
he's probably the strongest part of
yeah.
this movie. Um, I just really did enjoy this movie. It was more than I thought it was going to be. Sometimes less than I thought it was going
Yeah,
to be, but had plenty and enough elements of
to just have
exactly
fun
what I
with it.
wanted from it
Yeah,
for me to have just as much
and
fun
be entertained. Yeah, I had a good time
as I
with
should have
Cocaine
done.
Bear. Yeah, I had a
Yes,
good time.
Cocaine Bear for the win. Where